Hiya, I'm psychologist and author Leona Deakin, and this is Lead Her Ship Journeys, where we delve into the minds of inspirational women to find out how they do the things that they do. Last week, we heard from Simone Roche, MBE, the CEO of We Are Power and founder of the Northern Power Women's Awards, about how saying yes to every opportunity that came her way in the Royal Navy and beyond allowed her to live her dream of quite literally lifting other people up. This week on Leadership Journeys,
I guess I haven't really spoken much about why I retired because I felt like my identity was cricket. And so I was like, well, who am I if I'm not playing cricket for England? I was basically getting very anxious. Anyway, I ended up breaking my thumb playing men's cricket. I had a good 8-week block in the summer with no cricket. I couldn't play. And I was really happy.
What do you do if you have the best job in the world, but it just doesn't make you happy? Hi folks, today we have something a little different, a female sporting superstar. So I have World Cup winning cricketer Holly Colvin joining me today. Now at age 15, Holly was drafted to the England team for an Ashes test against Australia, which is an absolutely fascinating story I'm sure she'll tell us about. And then she went on to play 5 tests, 72 one-day internationals and 50 2020 internationals. She was a member of the Women's World 2020 World Cup winning side in 2009. So this is a woman not to play cricket against, I sense. Since retiring from cricket in 2013, she has moved into Women's Cricket Senior Officer for the ICC out in Dubai, lived out there for a number of years, and then returned to be the Sports Competition Manager for cricket for the Commonwealth Games here in Birmingham. Today, we are meeting her in London because she's a major sports event manager for the Greater London Authority. So I'm sure everyone's aware we're living in a bit of a golden age for women's sport. Finally, our female cricketers, footballers and the like are receiving the attention and accolades they deserve. But I'm fascinated to hear what Holly's journey was like as a female moving through sport, as well as exploring the mindset needed to excel in that professional environment. That feels like a long introduction, Holly, but you've done so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to meet you. So, I mean, I think we have to start with your origin story at age 15, because it's such a cool story. It's like something out of a movie. So just tell us how you came to be in the England team playing against Australia.
So the test match was at Hove in Sussex, which is my home county. And during the preparations for the test match, the England team were looking for some net bowlers, and one of the Australian bowlers was a left-arm spinner. So they were looking for left-arm spinners so they could have some practice. So I rock up, a couple of days before, bowled quite well apparently. The day before the test match, got handed the phone by my mum with a very confused face saying, oh, you better take this. And I was like, oh, and the head coach was on the phone saying, oh, we'd like you to come down for the next 4 days. Are you free? I was like, yeah, sure, thinking, I'll just be running on the drinks or, getting a bit of experience, or they want more net bowling for batters whilst they wait. But no, they wanted me to play, which was quite a surreal experience. And yeah, so off I went, played in a test match at my home ground down at Hove, and yeah, the rest, I guess, is history.
And what was that actually like at age 15 to just be thrust into that team? And
there was a few dynamics. One was I ended up rooming with the girl another spinner who wasn't playing that I replaced. So there was that interesting dynamic there. The captain was currently teaching at my school, so it just shows you kind of sign of the times. But they did get quite a bit of media pickup. So there were quite a few journalists around. And I remember being sort of bodyguarded a little bit by our team manager at the time, Charlotte Dickinson, who was quite a force of nature. It was, I think, actually it got a bit of media attention for the whole team because it was quite an interesting story. I think the biggest thing that was quite striking looking back was I had actually no idea who the Australian players were. I couldn't have named a single player. I knew kind of they had a really scary opening fast bowler in Catherine Fitzpatrick, and they had some great batters, but didn't quite understand like the legendary status of some of these players who were the best in the world at the time. So it kind of worked in my favour because I really had no idea the magnitude of what it was. I kind of just was like, I'm just going to turn up and bowl, it will be fine. And obviously, the more media attention they got. So it was kind of this surreal bubble that I kind of look back on and be like, what a wild time, but an incredible experience nonetheless, and one I kind of really fondly kind of look back on.
Oh, I bet. And it's that, like you were saying, you almost had that teenage bravado and not enough insight to be scared of them. If you'd have walked in there 10 years later, you'd have probably been terrified by the reputations of the women you were playing against.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other thing is that I was playing a lot of boys cricket. So I was playing at my school team, and a lot of the guys for 14, 15-year-olds were a lot bigger and scarier than some of the women I was bowling against, and they'd absolutely clatter me for six if ever I bowled a bad ball. So I kind of had the kind of logical brain of that kind of behind me looking at the game. So the playing kind of high-level boys cricket really helps in terms of the pressure situations as well I was getting myself into.
Yeah, I bet. And just giving you that outlook that was helpful. So we were just talking before about how you started in cricket, and you were saying chasing your big brother. And that was actually a bit of a common story for other female cricketers that you played with, that you were chasing your brothers a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think pretty much if you went, along the line of our team, pretty much all of them had an older brother. All of them wanted to do something that their brother could do or be better in some senses. But yeah, I was sort of very much the garden net bowler, and kind of asked my mum, where does he disappear off to every Sunday morning? Can I join in? And the first answer was, you're not old enough. And then when I became older, my mum didn't have a reason to say no. So off I went and just joined the local boys team and kind of learnt cricket at the same age that all boys do, and didn't really realise I was any good because I just thought I was an average cricketer, not necessarily a female or male cricketer. So yeah, and then kind of went through the ranks from there.
Because I was going to ask, how much of your success at 15 was, do you think, down to some natural talent that you had versus the experiences that you'd had playing against the boys and chasing your brother? Is it possible to determine that?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a mixture of a couple of things. Like when I was, I guess, growing up till the age of, I want to say 11, I was always an opening batter. I opened the batting for like my school team when I was like 12, 13 for the boys team. And then basically was at an under 15 tournament at the age of 11 for Sussex. So it was a county tournament at Ampleforth, which is a really old school private boarding school up in Yorkshire. It was a festival that happened every year, and I injured my thumb basically, I think, and they were doing workshops around different skills. There was like a batting one, there was a fielding one, and then there was a spin bowling one, and I was like, well, I can't really do batting, can't do fielding, I'll just give spin bowling a crack. Literally turned myself into a spin bowler for that tournament and did really well, and then became a left arm spinner from there. And I think we were kind of unicorns a little bit, especially in women's cricket. A lot of people were very much right-handed. And so I kind of had a bit of a unique skill that wasn't as, well, I mean, there's so many women's left arm spinners in England now, but it was something that was quite sought after, and yeah, kind of luck of the draw, I think, from getting picked.
Yeah, and something you turned your hand to because you saw a bit of an opportunity there, maybe to
just kind of by accident kind of enjoyed it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is all right. So
I mean, it sounds like one of those fairy tale stories, the kind of thing I imagine in my head every time I try a new sport, and I think maybe this is the one where someone's going to just be walking by and go, oh my goodness, like, you're the best lacrosse player we've ever seen, something like that. This has never happened to me, Holly, you won't be surprised to find out. But actually there's a lot of graft going on there, isn't there? Because like you say, you were starting to play quite early age, probably about 6 years old, that you were playing, maybe a little bit earlier, something like that. And then as a young girl playing in cricket, what was that like? Did you face any resistance from the boys or from the clubs to be playing cricket, or was it quite easy?
Do you know what? I actually had an incredible experience playing boys cricket, as in they were they just treated me as one of the lads, and that's all I ever wanted. I was another player. It really didn't matter whether I was a girl or whether, they were lads. I think I've never had any resistance or anything like that from any of them, and they were very welcoming. The only thing I've had was, and it used to kind of spur me on, was if I did get a wicket in a boys' game, you'd hear the taunts of their own teammates as the batter getting out, being like, oh, you got out to a girl. And actually, I definitely think it worked in my favour being a girl, because actually there was more pressure on the boys because they didn't want to get out to me. And it was more embarrassing that way. So I really used it to my advantage. There was kind of a bit of a news story, I guess, when I was like 14, 15, and me and Sarah Taylor, who's a sort of legendary cricketer in my era, Robin Marler, who was, I think, chair of the MCC at the time, was outraged by us playing boys cricket and said it was dangerous and we shouldn't be playing. And yeah, we thought it was quite an outdated view. And we were like, again, doesn't really matter our gender. If we're good enough to play, we'll play. So,
and when he said it was dangerous, who was he trying to protect there? Did he think the girls were too vulnerable to be playing? Or
I think it was around, the fast bowlers would have to slow down for us and stuff like that, which was just ridiculous. Like, yeah, that sort of stuff. You didn't want a boys injuring us. I was like, well, a boy can injure a boy, it doesn't matter. So I've only ever had really positive responses, and I guess I just let my cricket do the talking, and everyone knew I was good enough to be in the teams. And yeah, I had a really good time, I guess.
Tell us a bit about that experience then. So you get in the team in the Ashes, but then it doesn't end there, does it? It goes on and you stay in the team and end up winning the World Cup. And I mean, what was that experience like?
Yeah, that was a really mad year, 2009. So it was the classic year of I took a gap year between school and uni, went over to Australia for 6 months to play some club cricket out there, and absolutely loved it. We lived in a house where there was 4 of us that played for England. We all went over, all lived together, all played for different clubs across Sydney. We obviously did really well in the World Cup, the 50 over World Cup, and brought it home. And I distinctly remember getting back, obviously having been away for 6 months, and my mum was like, well, you need a job. So I started as a cleaner at my local sports club, literally off the back of winning a World Cup.
Well done, Mum.
Yeah. So bring me
back on the ground.
Exactly. Yeah. Bar job and cleaning. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And yeah, we went obviously, and that summer had the T20 World Cup was in England, which was amazing. Like, that was a very different experience, I think, compared to the 50 over World Cup, because it was the first time I felt real eyes were on us, because we just won the World Cup, the 50 over one. And I'll never, ever forget the semi-final that we played at the Oval against Australia. And this is a time where we would get, a couple of thousand max at a game. And it was about half full at the Oval, which was the biggest crowd we'd ever been against. And obviously all of the games were televised by this point. So you felt like you had sort of everyone watching, and the atmosphere was incredible. But we chased down a record total of 160 odd. I'm really bad with stats. So when you told me what my stats were earlier, I was like, yeah, they sound about right. And just the most ridiculous game of cricket I've ever played. I played absolutely abysmally. Like, the pressure definitely got to me. I bowled terribly, but didn't matter. The team won, and we went on to obviously win the tournament again at a half-packed Lords against New Zealand in 2009. So that felt like that year was quite a real step change, I think, in just we didn't even have big crowds really at our games, and we got a lot more TV coverage and things like that. So things were starting to change. I think our profiles were starting to change at that point.
It's a wonderful thing to have been involved in, to be there at the epicenter of that all starting and it gaining more gravitas and more respect. What did you learn, do you think, from being in that professional women's team? Like, what did you gain insights into, how to work together and how to support each other? And what was that? So other than the mechanics of playing the cricket, what else was going on that made that team successful, do you think?
So it was a really interesting time, because you say professional, and we weren't. fully professional.
Okay, sorry.
We were no, but we were professional in a sense of the way we conducted ourselves, like the training, the dedication. But we were all like, I was obviously still a student. Half of us were still students. You know, some were doing part-time jobs, some were coaches, and we were just doing it really for the love. And I think it was a really interesting time because we were all spread around the. I mean, there was a real contingent in Loughborough, to be fair, but we were all spread around the country and trusted to do our own programmes. So we would only meet as an England team maybe once every couple of months in camps over a weekend. But the majority of our training would have been done with our own one-to-one coaches or at our own universities, and you know, our strength and conditioning program, nutrition was all up to us to do. So it did, one, it taught you to kind of trust each other, that everyone was putting in the work and no one was kind of leaving the team behind. And you were trusted to kind of be independent, find your own solutions, like find your own like gyms. And by the time this is kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but towards the back end, 2012, 2013, I was working full time for a charity in London, Lord's Taverners. And I would be commuting into the Oval at 7 a.m, having my net, then getting into work at about 9:30, still in my sweaty kit, doing a full half day of work, then at lunchtime having my shower, and then kind of commuting with all my cricket kit back home again. But like that was kind of the reality that it was. So I think it certainly taught me around how to sort of make sure you fit stuff in, how to kind of put in the hard work, to trust your team are doing the same, and then kind of made those moments a lot sweeter, I think, when you get to an end of a tour. And even, do you know what, even if you've lost, like, you still have a great celebration, you still all come together, you still shake the hand of the opposition and have a really good time. But it was always at the end of tour, because you'd worked so hard, you sacrificed quite a lot during those winter months to then muck it up during the middle of a tour because you wanted a bit of a night out. It wasn't worth it. It was like, actually, that's what the end is for, or when there was a decent break.
There's a real like discipline and dedication thing going on there, isn't there? Like you say, you're all being trusted to be dedicated and to be disciplined and to do the work. And so in your view, why has this been the golden era really for women's sport? And the fact that, you know, I'm 50 odd now, and I remember, you know, back in my youth, the idea that you might want to play women's cricket or football or rugby, you know, maybe when you went to university, there might be a team there, you could play around with it for a couple of years, and that was it really. And then everything seems to have changed around the time you were getting involved in it. So what was changing that? Is it the investment? Is it public interest? Is it the quality of the sports women?
I think it's a mixture of everything. I'd say I feel like the world woke up that 50% of the population is female, right? Yes. So commercially, you've got a product that you can sell to 50% of your population. And you all know that participants of the game make the best fans. Like, if you played a sport, you are much more likely to be emotionally attached to that, to attend, to buy merchandise, to tune in. If you've played that sport, like, that is just a fact, really. So I think there was kind of this swell of like, well, we need to be more inclusive and we need to engage with women in our sport. And therefore, it does need that investment. And it's kind of, where do you invest? Do you invest in the bottom or do you invest in the top? And I think more successful teams kind of get more publicity. And actually in this country, if you think about for the last 10 years, particularly team sport, you look at kind of the traditional men's sports in football, in cricket, in rugby union, I've had pretty good success in those team sports in the last 10 years. And that breeds interest, that breeds inspiration, that then gets young girls going, oh, I could play that, and then brings this groundswell of interest around building clubs and then making more facilities accessible to them and stuff like that.
But like you say, the advantage of it is opening the minds of girls about what they are capable of and what they can do. And that actually, when they have that time and that discipline and they do practice these sports, well, they're just able to perform in a parallel way to the men, really. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you've had this great success and such a wonderful thing to happen to you, but at such a young age. How old were you when you won the World Cup?
19.
So still in your teens.
Yeah.
And you've just hit a pinnacle of something amazing that potentially that might not happen again. What's that like?
I guess kind of I was at the time at 19, I was kind of like, right, okay, well, we've just won a World Cup. When's the next one? But I just was kind of classic case, and this is really cliche, but kind of like taking each day as it comes. The one thing I did know, and the one thing that made me very different to quite a lot of the players at the time, cricket wasn't my life. It kind of was something that I fell into by accident, quite literally from my story. But I always knew I wanted to get a degree. I always knew I needed something else that wasn't cricket. And I stupidly did a biology and chemistry degree, which has got the most hours with all the labs required, which made it really challenging when I was off trying to play cricket. But a lot of the girls that went, again, different girls went to Loughborough, some of them deferred broke up their degree into multiple years and ended up going to uni for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was like, no, I'm going to get my degree in 3 years. And I ended up missing, I think it was one tour, I think to New Zealand, because I was like, no, I need to actually, I'm going to stay. It's my 3rd year at university. I can't miss 5 weeks of a semester of university because it will just screw me for my exams, and I wanted to get a good degree. So I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I just knew that I needed something else that was a fail-safe. And I also knew I didn't want to spend 100% of my time in cricket because I think I would have gone nuts. Right.
Why is that?
Again, I think it just was something that happened to me and wasn't like my full passion, which is probably something that is probably strange to hear considering I played for England.
But good that you know that, because you could probably get intoxicated by the fact that you were playing at such a high level and think this must be my purpose. But you actually had a sense that I want something more. Yeah, and it's actually, I guess I haven't really spoken much about at all really publicly about why I retired so young at 23. I didn't retire. I probably could have retired earlier, but I didn't because I felt like my identity was cricket. And so I was like, well, who am I if I'm not playing cricket for England? Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering if that was going on. Okay, that makes sense.
And in the end, I just basically the whole thing that came out was in the summer of 2013, I went back to play men's club cricket because I was basically getting very anxious, long story short.
Right.
And I was like, right, what I need to do is I need to go and play international standard women's cricket every week to normalise the standard that I was playing. So I thought the best thing to do would play men's Premier League club cricket. Anyway, I ended up breaking my thumb playing men's cricket because one of the guys absolutely belted it back at me. Wasn't a catch, it was along the floor. I have to stipulate that. Broke my thumb. So I ended up, for the first time since I think probably I was 7, I had a good 8-week block in the summer with no cricket. I couldn't play. And I was really happy. And I didn't really want to come back. And it was an Ashes summer, that 2013 summer. And I came back just in time for the start of the Ashes, but having not really played. Yeah, just had a horrible. But
it shows that your mindset had changed, hadn't it?
Yeah. I had a horrible time. Didn't enjoy it. Then there was a tour to the West Indies in the end of 2013. And my family decided to book to come and watch before I'd even decided. I was like, okay, well, I have to play that tour then if my family have booked their tickets. And then after that, I was like, no, I'm out. I need to. I didn't retire. I took some time out just to be like, I'm not playing cricket.
To get your head straight and feel right. So the anxiety that you were getting, was that all to do with the pressure?
Yeah, it's just kind of, you probably see it a lot now because people speak about it. But at the time, I didn't. I didn't talk about it at all. Just hated it. I don't really want to get in too much into it, but I guess I just felt that there was a lot more to life than cricket, than playing anymore, and took a full year off. And then in 2015, actually, in the summer, I decided to go back to playing club and county cricket. And I remember calling up the England coach and I said, look, I'm coming back to play some county cricket. I don't want to get selected for England. I said, I'm not playing to get selected. I'm playing because I want to enjoy the sport again. And actually played really well that summer, obviously, because there was no pressure. And then, applied for the job at the ICC in back end in summer of 2015, got offered the job and pretty much effectively went, well, can't really play for England if I'm working for the ICC. So
that was your escape route.
That was I think that's my sign. So stopped.
Yeah. I think it's such a helpful experience for other people to hear, because I think I've certainly worked with lots of people over my career who that idea of it's like a self-limiting belief. My life is in cricket, my skills are in cricket, my identity is in cricket, so all I can do is cricket. If I stop doing cricket, then what will the world think? And so it's really tempting to not listen to your emotion and to your intuition and to keep pushing yourself and pushing yourself and pushing yourself, when actually it's like, you had a great experience, you have a wonderful story, you know, that it's something that people might dream of doing, and you did it. You don't have to keep doing it. It's your life. You know, if it's not right for you, if you feel you've got more to give or your passion's elsewhere, then go do something else. I think particularly for younger women who might, you know, they've done a degree in law and then they get to be a solicitor and they hate it. What, are they going to spend the next 40 years being a solicitor, or are they going to go to catering college and become the chef they really want to be? You know, like that kind of, I think it's really helpful for people to hear, especially at your level, to have experienced that, where people might look at it from afar and just think, gosh, that just must be wonderful all the time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of me felt really guilty, because I felt guilty for not, you know, people would kill to be in my position to be playing international sport, and particularly cricket, and I felt really guilty for not wanting it, I guess. That was kind of a hard bit, and also I guess some people not understanding it either, as to be like, you know, why would you not want to play for England? Do you like you fly around the world? Do you like play in these, you know, in the Caribbean? It's wonderful. And I was like, it isn't quite. But I don't regret or look badly on my cricket experience. It's taught me a lot, and I've learned so much from it, and it's taken me into the career I've got today. I would not be sitting here in front of you if I didn't play cricket at that level and had all of those experiences.
Before we move on to what you're doing now and how different that is, and emotionally how different, as well as, you know, in terms of what you're doing, what did you learn? So you said, I learned a lot about myself. So what did you learn from that experience? Do you think if you could go back and almost give your younger self a few tidbits of information, what would you be saying to her?
I think I just learned now, like my emotional intelligence about myself, certainly emotional intelligence is also working on about other people, but it's certainly so much better. Like I understand like when I now need to ask for help and try and be a lot more open about how I'm feeling, because it's just it got to a stage where it just wasn't healthy with where I was at. It taught me, I guess, that I can be quite resilient, because there was a lot of stuff that, you know, I was going through, and I came out the other side and I'm okay.
You survived?
Yeah, exactly. I always go back, and one thing I do wish, like when I was kind of on the verge of coming back in sort of 2014, I was like, I really wish I really loved it, like, but I just didn't. And it's sometimes, I've had the same thing with friends, actually, where your best friends at university or school, and then you try and force yourself to be like, you're like, oh, let's go for dinner, let's catch up, and you find that it's really forced, and you don't want to. That friend meant something to you for a long time, and you try and then continue to force the friendship, and actually learning like when to let go, I think, is also been a really important thing. And it's not giving up, which I think is what at the time I thought it was. It was actually going, you know, accepting that something isn't for you, and there is so many greater opportunities down door 3.
So it's giving yourself permission almost to say, that was great, it had its challenges, been there, done that, I'm going to move on now.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've had to learn, or maybe you're continuing to learn, to forgive yourself for the fact that you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
For the whole of your career.
Yeah.
And actually that's okay.
Yeah. And it's really funny because every time I was at an international competition with my ICC job hat on, putting on the events, the first question, I'd be around the boundary, and the first question I get is, oh, do you miss it? And I'd be like, no. Like straight out the bat. They'd be like, really? I'm like, no, absolutely not. I said, I love being in this seat where I can go, you don't really understand the amount of work that's gone on to put, you know, this boundary rope round and all of the things in place for you to have like this great competition. I got so much more satisfaction and pride actually out of some of the stuff I did in that time and those achievements than I ever did playing.
And that's that perception, isn't it, that people might have of something from afar, like, oh, it must be amazing to be, you know, in like sort of World Cup winning cricket sides, or it must be amazing to be an entrepreneur that set up your own business, or, you know, it must be amazing to be a creative artist that's well regarded as won lots of awards. But you're like, oh, but what's the reality for those people? You know, like you say in cricket, the pressure, the anxiety, the emotion it was creating in you wasn't nice. That entrepreneur could be just working all hours God sends and never seeing their family, because that's what it takes to make it. The artist might be revered but doesn't earn any money, and so is really struggling. And so we can look at these things if too simply and just think that looks ace. But the reality, the lived reality, can be very different. So tell us about now, because you briefly just talked about what you're doing now and your face lit up and you just looked really happy, which is really nice. So what are you doing now, and why is this more you?
So after I got retired, effectively, I moved to the ICC into sort of a women's cricket officer role. And it was the classic role of, we need someone to have women's cricket in their title and everything women's cricket will go past your desk. And it was kind of my job to bug everyone else around the organisation to be like, remember, there's women's cricket. I got the most wonderful 5-year experience, which was so varied across a most ridiculous range of projects. In my 3rd day flying to Thailand to put on a qualifier event, but the organiser then had to leave 4 days in because she had to fly to Bangladesh because there was another tournament that needed her urgent attention, leaving me and one other to run the tournament. And I was like, I'm 3 days into the job, but this is wonderful. So then kind of being put into going to India in 2016. So this was 6 months later, and being like, you're a venue manager. It was the joint men's and women's T20 World Cup. And you're in charge of 6 teams. They're going to be staying in Chennai, and you're going to manage this stadium. And I was like, okay, cool. And I've got some amazing stories from that trip around just crazy and classic crazy India of things happening and me being a 26-year-old white female in that world trying to manage just ridiculous circumstances. I've got many examples.
But you were loving it.
Oh, I loved it.
You can see that and hear it.
Yeah.
So was there something about the challenge of that chaos or the variety that you just were like, oh, yeah?
I think it's also just the empowerment you feel around. There are so many random challenges from the Pakistan, it was Afghanistan head coach who was Pakistani, Inzamam al-Haq, very, very famous cricketer. He had the wrong visa, so couldn't actually access the venue. And it was me telling him, sorry, like, you still, I can't do anything. And he was yelling at me and I'm like, okay, that's great. Thinking, oh, this is interesting, to a birthday party the day before a we had a warm-up game, a men's warm-up game at one of the stadiums, and all of a sudden these flowers started appearing in the morning and then a red carpet. And I was like, what's going on? They're like, oh yeah, we've got a birthday party tonight. And I was like, sorry, this venue's the ICC's exclusively? Like, what? They're like, don't worry, madame, we'll be gone. But, you know, in the morning, we'll be tidied up. Get there in the morning, it's all still there. And you just kind of like rally, and I don't know, the truck leaves with all the stuff and the bus for the players, coaches pulls in, and just there was all sorts of stuff that went on. And I think the adrenaline of an event where you're just constantly going and supporting and answering, you know, to all the different team demands and the venue and solving problems. And I think you're also seeing an end product. So at the end of it all, you could see all of these games of cricket, these incredible games of cricket were being put on because of you. And also I do really like puzzles. Like, I genuinely have puzzle books in my spare time. And I like problem solving. And I think you never get them all right, no way, but you certainly learn from all the ones you do and the processes. And that to me is way more satisfying, and going, oh yeah, that happened because of me. That's nice.
I did that. So you were feeling like you were having real impact, perhaps. I mean, there's still a lot of that dedication going on, and discipline, and turning up and dealing with the crazy things that are happening, the birthday parties and things. But you are just intrinsically enjoying that experience so much more. So you'd left cricket feeling a bit like, oh, you know, what are people going to think of me? And I've let myself down, maybe a bit from what you were saying. How long into the new job did you start to feel really good?
I think just things just continuously got better, like built and built, because the profile and the scale of events that I was doing was going up and up. I started in I said 3 days into the job, I was in Thailand for an 8-team women's qualifier, you know, no crowd, no nothing. It was just putting it on, to kind of the madness in India, to then the following year I ran from scratch a Women's World Cup, the Women's World Cup in 2017 that happened in England. I ran the qualifier in Sri Lanka, and we were like, yeah, we've got no budget, we've got no format, we've got no venue or host. Can you just sort of go off and sort that, please? So off I went, and then a project that had nothing to do with women's cricket, but no one put their hand up to do, and it was ginormous, and this is going to sound really technical, so I really apologise to anyone that doesn't know cricket. But cricket has this thing where it's called official status, where you can play an official international match at this level. So, you know, think test match cricket, only certain countries can actually play a test match because they have a thing called test status.
I see, yeah.
Same with one-day international cricket. They decided to go basically to make T20 international status open to all 105 members. They made this decision at sort of a board level that that's what they wanted to do. But they didn't. 15, did you say it was? Before? Yeah, but they didn't actually think how on earth they were going to implement it, because there were quite strict rules around the size of ground you can have, that you had to play on grass, that you had to have certain levels of umpiring, that you had to have a validated scoring system, because you didn't.
I'm sensing a puzzle growing here, Holly.
Yeah, exactly. What they didn't want was to devalue international cricket, but they also wanted to make it accessible.
And you were saying nobody wanted to do it. Am I sensing you volunteered?
Yeah,
for
I
this?
did. Yes. Yeah, I volunteered.
Not over what period of time? Was this just over 1 year, or over a few years?
No. We had about, I want to say, I don't know, 6 months to 12 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. To do it all.
So you did it. That time.
Yeah. We didn't really have a choice. We were just like, right. And one of the best things is I had to present how we were going to implement this at our annual conference. So it's all 105 members are present. Obviously, there's 300, 400 people in this room, and I had to go up and kind of tell them how on earth their country could play a T20 and what they had to do.
Yeah.
To comply.
Mm-hmm. And what was that like?
Yeah, it was fun. Like, I actually really enjoy public speaking, weirdly. I don't like networking and socializing in rooms full of people, but I don't mind speaking at people.
Yes.
No, it was fun. I kind of was like, right, how do I make really dull regulations interesting? So I got everyone in the room to stand up, and I said, please sit down if you you only have artificial turf in venues in your country. So like 50% sat down. And then I'd be like, sit down if you, and I eventually got most ridiculous. I was like, sit down if you don't have any floodlights and all of this stuff. Eventually I got the whole room to sit down, and I was like, you'll be pleased to know that every single one of you can still play a T20 international.
Nice.
And they were like, oh, okay. Because I was trying to like go through what the regulations were around. The point is we're trying to keep it open, and it's not going to be perfect. And you kind of start these projects as well where you spend ages trying to make the perfect solution, and you spend 12 months like building a system. And we basically were like quite open to say, right, we've only got 12 months to do this. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to learn pretty quickly. So the whole point is we want to get people playing, countries playing more cricket, so let's let them play. And we may make mistakes along the way, or there may be things that we have to tighten up, but let's not let that stop us. So I think that was the mentality, which was great.
Yeah, and that gets you moving, presumably, because if you're worried about it being perfect, then you could end up just procrastinating for ages, thinking, well, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Whereas actually to just be like, this is going to evolve, let's make a start, do as much as we can, and then presumably over the years that follow, tweaks then occur, don't they? And it all gets, So even though towards the end of your cricketing career, it maybe wasn't the nicest experience for you, you've gone on to continue to champion cricket, haven't you? Like everything you've been doing has been improving and championing the women's game. It sounds like.
Yeah, because I saw the bigger picture, because I knew it wasn't a game for me as in to play, but I knew what it's done for so many people, other women, other cultures than me. And I love how cricket brings people together, how it's a sport that's really social. Like you spend 50% of the time, 9 of you are nattering on the side of a pitch. 2 of you are doing some hard work in the middle. It's one of those sports that's really changed a lot of the culture. Like I got to know quite well some of the Pakistan women's team, and just some of their stories are absolutely incredible around what they've been through.
Has there been an empowerment going on there then for them?
Yeah, and acceptance around around how women can play sport too. I mean, there's still a long, long way to go.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about in terms of sort of advice or tips you might give to other women following in your footsteps. One is young girls who might be interested in a sporting career, and what you would tell them it's important to do. And then maybe women who are looking to change profession and making that big step, because they're the 2 things that I think are really powerful about your story. A
really interesting piece of advice, not that it was given to me personally, but it was like one of those classic conferences, that someone was saying how she was she really wanted to be in marketing. She kept getting told, you don't have the experience, you don't have the experience. So she's like, well, how am I ever going to get the experience if you don't give me a chance? So what she decided to do was actually decide to create her own experience. So decided to start her own blogs, her own websites, to kind of market herself and do something off her own back. And actually, this is really not answering your question, but it's kind of something I want to talk about. I want to say it was sort of 2018. I was in Dubai. And for my New Year's resolution, not that I've done any really ever since, I decided to create a blog, because I wanted to do something very different for myself and push myself out my comfort zone. So the blog was called Alpha Beta Zumba. And there are 52 weeks of the year, there's 26 letters of the alphabet, and I decided to try a new sport or activity for each letter of the alphabet during this year.
Oh, wow.
I had an incredible year. My phone photos for that year are videos. The storage is a bit blocked, but also excruciatingly painful and uncomfortable to like go out and speak to strangers, to put myself out there and kind of go up to someone at the beginning of this activity, be like, hi, I'm Holly, I'm doing this thing. Do you mind if I do some filming? It'd be great, just trying this for the first time. And like 90% of the time, the response was, yeah, absolutely. That sounds brilliant. Like, what's your blog? Like, we'll help you out. And actually getting such a positive response, but feeling so awkward about it, and understanding what it's like to be a woman, but also to be a woman starting something from scratch and going into something as a complete beginner.
Yeah.
And feeling like really, self-conscious, quite, feeling a little bit embarrassed about the standard compared to people that were playing regularly, or at the same time just feeling really liberated about it and just really enjoying some of the stuff I did.
What do you think you gained from doing that? What did it give you back?
A real kind of life experience and understanding about kind of barriers to women in sport and why you might not want to start. I really had to consciously force myself to go, because I knew it was part on some things. It really taught me that actually communicating with people and speaking to people, actually 90% of the time, everyone's really friendly and welcoming. I'm still working on it. I still hate networking. I still have a really serious face when I go into a room because I don't like... I would still find it really awkward. So that's a work in progress.
And then how about for women who might be just not feeling the love for their current career but are a bit scared maybe that they're going to let themselves down or let people down if they change? Given that you've been through that, what would you say to them?
I'd say take a minute, as in take a minute for yourself, be patient with yourself and understanding and feel like what it is you really want. I think people are looking for a kind of a sign or a golden moment to go, I'm not currently happy with what I'm doing, but they're waiting for something else to come along and maybe feel they can't leave because they don't know what to next. But I think that doesn't matter so much. I think it's about, if you know to your core that you are unhappy and want to make a move, just move. And it may not be the right move, but at least you'll know, okay, I don't like that.
You can move again.
You can move again.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to do that. It doesn't have to be your North Star, your calling, or, something that comes along. It's
reminding me of what you were saying about the big project with the 2020 going from 10 to 150, which is, don't worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about your first step being the right step. There's some predestined route you're supposed to be taking and you've got to wait for that to open out. Actually, a bit like your, what did you call it? Alpha, beta, Zumba, was it?
Alpha, beta, Zumba, yeah.
Alpha, beta, Zumba is just go try some stuff. Just get out there and try some stuff. Or take some time, like you're saying, take some time for yourself. So you had to take some time. You broke your thumb. But actually in that 6 weeks to 8 weeks, that's when you thought, oh my gosh, I am happy. And that's the light bulb moment.
Yes.
Isn't it? Where you think, right, so what do I do now with that insight? Because I can either carry on, I can put myself back where I was, but now I have this knowledge.
Yeah.
Got to do something with it.
Yeah. No, you're right. But it still took me 2 tours to then do something about it.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah.
These things aren't quick or easy, are they?
No.
But it's that kind of, I think that's what's really helpful listening to other women's journeys, is that actually just have a bit of faith in your own intuition, I think is a very powerful thing to think about. Listen to your emotions as well. You said about being emotionally intelligent, not about other people, but about yourself. Am I okay? Am I asking for the help I need? Am I having the experiences I want in life? Am I feeling the way I want to feel in life? And even if you have a wonderful job, if you're not happy, it's not a wonderful job. It's just a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as a final thing, we kind of touched on this earlier, but just as a more general career overview, just thinking about where you are now, if you were to go back to that kind of 15-year-old Holly and just whisper in her ear something about the journey to come, what tip would you give her?
Oh, I certainly wouldn't want to tell her what's coming, because I think that's half the beauty of it, is that I still don't know where I'm going. The classic case of where are you going to be in 5 years? I still have no idea. And I've actually I've traveled around the world and I've ended up now living 5 minutes down the road from literally where I grew up. And I never thought I would end up back there. I almost vowed actually at 15 that I would never end up back in my village, and now I am. And I actually love it, but for very different reasons from what I ever thought. So I think just take continue to take every opportunity. Like you said, when I had that will to just jump into an opportunity, I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go, because that is the best experience you can ever have. And be willing to learn from mistakes and be not afraid to make them. Just don't make them twice. I think that's the key, is kind of like learn and, learn quick.
Yeah, learn and learn quick, and be open to experience. I think you can hear that running right through everything that you've done.
Yeah.
And that has been the thing that has brought you to a place where you are much, much happier and feel like you're having a much bigger impact in the way you want to.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, Holly. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. And I hope people have enjoyed hearing your story. I think there'll be some surprises in there.
Probably.
But thank you. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks.
In the next episode,
somebody who's been a high performer suddenly isn't performing as well. That could be your impact on them. You've overmanaged and you've micromanaged. Don't let great get in the way of good. And sometimes good is good enough. And it's not saying that you're lowering your standards. It's just actually you're moving your capacity of work elsewhere.